Let's bring in our panel now. Judicial Watch attorney and author of Defiant, Christina Bobb, along with West Virginia Attorney General J.B. McCuskey. Welcome to you both. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Christina, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on this rift between President Trump and his longtime ally, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Do you think it signals a larger fracture within the Republican Party?
It may. I think most Americans are sick of all of the political infighting, whether it's on the conservative side, on the liberal side, all of the talk about the Epstein files and whether they're going to be released or whether they're trickling out email by email. So, you know, there may be some changes in camps, but I think Americans are so sick of it. They want to see the Epstein files. They want to know if there's anybody in this running this country or, you know, in Congress that is implicated in them. And I think that's all people care about at this point. So I don't think the rift between the two of them is gonna do much for anybody.
Well, JB, I wanted to ask you about Greene accusing the White House of using a DOJ probe into Democrats' Epstein ties as a smokescreen to prevent full disclosure. What do you make of that?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that should be mentioned here is that Democrats are using this as a way to try to harm the president. And it is really curious to me to watch them to fawn all over themselves to try to tie the president to Jeffrey Epstein when this is really about victims, right? This entire probe and everything that's going on is about the young women who were exploited by Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. And it really is disgusting to watch the Democratic Party finally care enough about this problem simply because they believe inaccurately that it will harm the president. I think to your more question, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene is one congressperson. And a fight between the president and one of 435 congresspeople does not indicate a rift in the party. The president has been transparent about this from the beginning. And their squabble is not indicative of anything that's happening within the party. If anything, I would say that we are as unified as a party as we've ever been.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, the Democrats have had access to this material, or at least to the allegations, for a very long time, and they didn't do anything with it, probably because there's no there. But Christina, over the summer, President Trump and President Trump downplayed the significance of the Epstein files. And like you said earlier, there's a lot of attention on the victims and protecting the victims. And that's one of the reasons why this hasn't really been talked about a whole lot. But now, after weeks of GOP infighting and cherry-picked Democrat drops, the president is reversing course. So, again, what does this tell you about the president changing his mind, and where do you stand on this?
Well, I would like to see the files released. I'm not worried about anything implicating Donald Trump, and I don't think he is either, which is why he finally has said, okay, let's release it. I think there's a lot of information in there that could, depending on how it's released, could potentially either be embarrassing for some high-level officials within the United States or allies. And so I think the president was trying to be diplomatic. But, you know, the American people care more about victims' rights and care more about what's happening with the girls than with any elected official or world leader. And so I think they rightly need to come out. And I think the president changed his mind on this because Democrats tried to use his, you know, what he probably viewed as being diplomatic and cautious, and tried to make him look guilty, which I don't personally believe that he is. And, you know, we'll find out. And so I think he's like, all right, fine. If that's the game you're going to play, then let's put it all out there. And there could be some embarrassment for some people. So.
Well, yeah, some people, including maybe another former president who might be maybe a little more worried about what's coming than Donald Trump will ever be. But I want to switch gears real quick, JB. The Trump EPA is moving to limit federal water rules, giving developers and businesses an advantage in a regulatory battle with environmentalists. Can you tell me what this means to the citizens of West Virginia, where you work and live?
Yeah, so actually what the president is doing is getting back to a place of reasonable regulation. We have suffered under Biden and 8 years under Obama of climate crazy legislation that has put us in a place where we can't make enough electricity to run this country. It's causing consumer prices to surge, and it's making it harder for America to produce the goods and the things that we should be onshore, and giving advantages to our enemies in China and Russia. And what the Administrator Zeldin, announced today was a return to normalcy, a definition of what is the waters of the United States to a real definition, something that farmers and ranchers and miners and drillers and manufacturers and American small businesses and American families can understand, so that they can begin to build their businesses back up and understand what the regulatory environment is going to be going forward. What Obama and what Biden did was use the waters of the United States rule to placate the climate left, the extreme left-wing Green Party that is mostly the Democratic Party now, in order to regulate into the ground all of the fossil and carbon fuels that we need to build this electricity, but also to ensure that everyone who is making the food that keeps Americans going every single day understands how they were supposed to proceed. There were fines upwards of $35,000 per day for people working within what is called an ephemeral stream, which to the average person out there is just a little tiny 2-foot wide stream that happens when it rains. And so what Secretary Zeldin today was doing, number one, returning authority back to the states, because I promise you the people of West Virginia love our mountains, we love our streams, and we love our air more than anybody in Washington does, and giving regulatory certainty to American businesses so we can continue to grow and thrive.
Well, it's almost heaven, isn't it, J.B. McCuskey? Thanks very much for being on the show, along with Christina Bob. Great to see you both. Straight ahead on the Chris Salcedo Show, the